Welcome to the True Detectives podcast. You guys ready for another wild ride?
Absolutely. We're about to dive into a case that's going to stay with you.
Seriously, strap yourselves in because we're going deep into the minds of not just a killer, but the detectives trying to stop him. And let me tell you, it gets pretty dark.
It really does. We're talking about the kind of case that forces you to question everything, even yourself.
So before we jump in, let me give you a little rundown. We've got these excerpts detailing two really intense situations.
Right. The main one we're focusing on is called Mirror Image. It's all about this hunt for a serial killer who leaves behind these, well, I guess you could call them poems at his crime scenes.
Yeah.
But they're not exactly sonnets.
No, definitely not your typical Hallmark stuff. We're talking disturbing, twisted, definitely not the kind of poetry you'd want to read before bed.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And then there's a second scenario we'll touch on, involving a bioterror threat. Definitely high stakes all around.
Oh, yeah, talk about pressure. But, the common thread here is the whole dynamic between the people trying to catch these criminals.
Exactly. It's about that push and pull, the tension, and sometimes even, I'd say, the connection between hunter and prey.
Right. And how that affects them, maybe even changes them in the process.
That's a really important point. So let's get into this mirror image case.
Okay, so picture this. We've got Detective Sarah Thorne, experienced, seen her fair share of darkness, the kind of cop you want on your side when things go bad.
Right, the tough as nails type.
Yeah, exactly. But now she's up against this killer who's not just taking lives, he's leaving behind these poems. Like, why? What's the point?
It's interesting, right? Most killers, they want to cover their tracks, disappear. But this guy, he's almost flaunting it.
Yeah, it's like he wants to be known, not just for the murders, but for this twisted artistry.
It's like he thinks he's some kind of dark poet. And Thorne, she knows psychopaths. So she gets it. This isn't about necessity. It's about, ego.
It's creepy. Like, what makes someone want to turn murder into art?
It's really disturbing. It suggests this profound detachment. He's not just taking a life. He's creating something he thinks is meaningful, even beautiful.
Ugh, it's chilling. And to make things even more complicated, they bring in this profiler, Agent Alex Drake. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah. Drake's a bit of a legend, known for getting inside the heads of even the most twisted killers.
But he's also known for being, shall we say, difficult to work with.
He doesn't play by the rules, that's for sure. But when you're dealing with someone like this killer, you need someone who can think outside the box.
So traditional detectives and profilers, that's got to be a tense relationship, right?
It can be.
Yeah.
Detectives, they focus on the facts, the evidence. Profilers, they're more about intuition, psychology, two different worlds.
And in this case, you've got Thorne, all sharp edges and cold logic, clashing with Drake and his unnerving calmness.
Yeah, you can almost feel the friction right from their first meeting.
It's intense. And then Drake just dismisses Thorne's analysis of the crime scene. He's like, textbook, predictable, this killer wants a challenge. Talk about a power move.
It's like he's saying, you're not thinking big enough, this guy's playing a different game.
And he might be right, because the poems start getting even more disturbing.
Oh yeah, they take a dark turn.
They go from these general taunts to referencing specific, really painful events from Thorne's past.
It's like the killer is digging into her soul, trying to break her, and it definitely makes things more dangerous for her, both personally and professionally.
Absolutely. Now she's not just chasing a ghost. She's dealing with someone who knows her secrets, her weaknesses.
And that raises the question, how? How does he know so much about her?
And that's where things get even crazier. Thorne's in Drake's office, which is, let's just say, a mess. And she sees this photograph of a young woman, and the look in her eyes, it's like haunted, familiar.
It's like looking into a mirror, reflecting Thorne's own trauma.
Exactly. And then Drake drops the bomb. It's his sister, one of the killer's early victims. He never recused himself.
Yeah, that's a big ethical dilemma. On one hand, he's got this unique insight into the killer's mind. On the other hand, his judgment could be clouded by his personal grief.
Thorne is furious, not just at Drake, but at the whole messed up situation. And Drake, he's like, I couldn't recuse myself, and maybe a part of me didn't want to. So now they're forced to work together. But it's not just a partnership. It's described as this brutal kind of therapy. What do you make of that?
Well, they're both facing their demons. Drake, by analyzing the poems, he's reliving his sister's death. Thorne, she's confronting her own past through the killer's taunts.
So in a way, they're helping each other heal.
I think there's an element to that, yeah. They're finding a shared purpose, a shared pain, that binds them together.
But it's also dangerous, right? They're getting closer to the killer, but they're also getting closer to the darkness within themselves.
It's a slippery slope. The line between hunter and hunted can get blurry.
So they hatch this plan. Sarah's the bait, mirroring the killer's past victims. And Drake, he's not just observing anymore. He's like a weapon, ready to strike.
He's using his knowledge of the killer's mind to manipulate him, to lure him out. And that's where things get really interesting, morally speaking.
Because how far is too far, right? Can you really fight a monster without becoming one yourself?
That's the question, isn't it? And the answer might be more complicated than we'd like to admit.
Okay, so the trap is set. But then the actual confrontation, it's not what you'd expect.
No car chases, no shootouts, just this quiet, almost sterile interrogation room.
And the killer, he's this meek, unassuming guy. Not some hulking brute, but a guy who looks like he could be your accountant.
Yeah, the kind of guy you wouldn't look twice at on the street. And that's what's so scary, right? Evil doesn't always wear a mask.
He's fixated on Sarah, reciting his poems like they're lush letters. It's so creepy, so out of touch with reality.
It shows how warped his mind is, how he sees himself as some kind of romantic figure, even in this horrific context.
But then Drake enters the room, and the whole atmosphere changes. He's all quiet menace, and he says this line that sends chills down my spine. She's not like the others. She survived. She understands monsters like you. I taught her. What was that about?
It was power play. Drake was trying to get inside the killer's head, to appeal to his ego, his desire to be seen as special.
And it worked. The killer, he wants Drake's approval, like he's some kind of twisted mentor. So he confesses. He sees Sarah not as a victim, but as proof of his skill.
It's a horrifying thought, but it shows how these guys think. They crave recognition, even from someone they see as an equal in darkness.
The aftermath is quiet, almost anticlimactic. The killer's in cuffs, but there's no sense of relief, just this heavy feeling.
Yeah, they won, but at what cost? They had to go to some pretty dark places to get there.
Thorne says it worked, but there's no joy in her voice. And Drake's response, "We made a terrifyingly good team," with this hollow smile. Man, that says it all.
They're both scarred, changed by what they've been through, and it's not clear if they can ever go back.
And then that ending. Drake holds the door open for Sarah like he's offering something, a partnership, a way to process what they've been through. But she walks away. She sees too much of the monster in him, and maybe in herself.
It's a haunting image. It leaves you wondering what happens to these people who spend their lives staring into the abyss. Do they ever come back?
It's a question we all need to ask ourselves, especially when we're dealing with the darkest parts of humanity.
We also get this glimpse into another investigation involving a bioterror threat. And again, it's this forced partnership, this time between a detective and a scientist.
So, same high stakes, but different kind of pressure, right?
Yeah, the enemy's different, but the underlying theme is the same. You have to work with people you might not trust, might not even like, to save the day. And that can change you.
It's like, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to stop something truly evil?
It's a question without an easy answer. And that's what makes these stories so compelling, so unsettling.
Well, that's our time for today's investigation. We hope you found this deep dive as thought-provoking as we did. What stood out to you most about this case? What are your thoughts on the partnership between Thorne and Drake? We encourage you to keep exploring these questions, to delve deeper into the complexities of the human psyche and the nature of good and evil.
And don't forget to rate and follow the show for more true crime and true detective stories. We'll see you next time.
Think about this. Can you really fight monsters without becoming one yourself? It's a chilling thought. Until next time, stay safe up there, folks.